What's up, this today? Working, I don't know. I tried to get the regular computer to work. It's not working. So somebody will have to tell me how this is actually broadcasting, or if it's coming out right. So today we're going to be talking about working the book. What does working the book mean? Working the book is basically we're going to be talking about what is the difference between black book value and Kelly Blue Book and NADA. Why is this relevant? I'll tell you why this is relevant. Everybody has their own version of what a car is worth, and everybody has their own system on what they'll allow profitability wise on what they'll let you make based on their book values. What does that mean? All right, so let's get into it because today's going to be kind of short because it's Friday and I got some stuff lined up I got to get to. Number one, I got a frozen brake caliper that's really getting to be a pain. But anyway, we'll move on to that later. So the black book is what I call the dealer book. Basically, it's accepted in everybody in the car industry that the black book is the gospel of how stuff is monitored as far as the auctions and the access and what's actually given for true book value, because they have like a rough center, then they have like a clean and pretty much an average, and now they actually offer into the loan value side of things. So, by the way, is this right here? Is the camera look normal? Just okay, Big Cliff, is the camera look normal, my man? Because this is my phone we're running off of right now. I could not get my laptop to work today. I don't know what's wrong. But if it does work normal, let me know because that would be really cool. Because I'm not sure if I landscaped it the wrong direction or not. Okay, cool. It looks normal. All right, cool. All right, so working the black book. So if we're going to an auto auction, everybody that's trying to sell you something is going to be breaking out the black book. They're going to be like, hey, man, this is back a clean. Hey, man, this is back a rough book. This is $2,000 back a rough book. And you're going to hear that all over the place. They'll be like, this is average black. Okay, we're a bit on the. Okay, so yeah, so we're shooting with the phone, so I'm not sure what's going to happen with it. So, all right, we'll just have to cross our fingers; it'll get better. Um, okay, so Black Book is going to be what every dealer out there is basing their decisions on. A lot of dealers base their decisions auction wise on the Black Book, and anymore, some of the banks have kind of gotten wise to the Black Book theory. And the black book will get your butt really in trouble. I mean, because in one sense, you're like, oh, well, this is rough. That means, yeah, but the black book is taking off such a large pool of cars going through the auction that it can really get you in trouble. Now, it is kind of a guide. Like all the cars that we'll be discussing are going to be guides today. But the black book, more than anything, is what you're going to have to learn as a car person because that's the communicated language that we all understand. We all understand the black book. So if some guy calls me right now, I'll be like, what's the book on it? We're not talking about NADA. We ain't talking about Kelly Blue Book, Edmunds, or any other book value. Car people talk about black book. That's what they care about. Because that to us is auction liquidation, what we assume that we can get through it at wholesale through an auto auction. So this right here really limits our risk or tells us, hey, it's worth taking a shot because it's so far back of whatever the normal book value is. But there's some factors in there that doesn't play to your favor. I'll give you an example. Corvettes. I love Corvettes. Anybody knows me knows I love Corvettes. But the problem with Corvettes is the color green. The color green in a Corvette, it doesn't matter if the thing is back a rough book. Now, Corvette, if you took a late model Corvette and you were trying to sell it, let's say a retail red one, you're not going to buy that car for average black book anywhere, period, in the store. It's going to be clean or higher. It might even get close to retail at an auction setting. Now, when you look at the book value, we look at that car under red, and it doesn't really determine the difference in color. So this is where you got to be wise at. So red brings all the money, but if it's polo green, you are not going to be able to give that car away. The Chevy dealer is not even going to want it. Nobody wants the car because it's the color. So that's where the book value and a little bit of knowledge is going to go a long way. So you can't always count on it because it can get you in trouble. Because anybody that bought that green Corvette already knows it's a rough book car. That's probably a little rough on it, but it gets pretty far back there. And he's going to be trying to sell it to you based on, hey, man, these things are bringing clean book everywhere, and then you're going to pay $2,000 too much for the wrong color car. So under that factor, the black book can really screw you hard, and that lesson will be learned without fail as the further you get into it. Another one is vehicles that come with a 7-passenger seating group, and you buy one with 5 that's a 2-wheel drive. It's the kiss of death. Nobody wants it. So they have this huge book value, but nobody wants them. So even though the book value says it, doesn't mean it's worth anything. If that even makes sense to you. What's the other couple factors out there? Regional stuff. Like, give you an example. 4-wheel drives where we're at bring all the money. The further south you go, 4-wheel drives have almost no value at all. Matter of fact, people don't even like them because of the gas mileage situation. Whereas the further north you go up the East Coast, and I'm sure the Midwest or wherever you're at, if you have a need for a 4-wheel drive, a car has no value unless it has a 4-wheel drive. So this is where, even though Black Book may or may not catch you on the trend with that. So you may be in an area that 4-wheel drives are hot, and then you turn around and try to sell a car that has 2-wheel drive because it has a good Black Book value, but you got to understand that Black Book value doesn't mean anything because the area you're in, everybody wants the 4-wheel drive. And there'll be certain little niches like that about just different cars that bring different things. And in your area, you'll have to kind of start to learn them. And different sports cars with different packages, even though they all kind of have good books, but I remember the Firebirds, the WS6 that was just a firecracker car. The Cobra Mustang, another firecracker. It would just bring all the money in the world. Whereas a Mustang GT could be hot or cold, and then a base model Mustang, you'd be lucky. You can buy them back at average all day long. So one Mustang back a book, the other one kind of closer to the average versus not. And then you turn around and jump into into something specialized like an SVT Cobra, and the shit's through the roof. You can't even touch them for book value. All right, so this is with my phone, so I'm going to try to see what everybody's actually saying here. Okay. Okay, so, all right, we're going to get into that. As far as OfferUp and all those places, those are fake numbers. They don't even matter. They just forget them. Get that out of your mind. That's a retail situation that car dealers somewhere down the road, I'm sure we're responsible for it. We've created this huge cloud of questions about values of cars because wherever there's confusion, there's money being made. And in the car business, they are masters of confusion on figuring out the true value of cars because without the true confusion of cars, there's no profit made because everybody knows what they're worth. So we count on the confusion to be able to make you money. So does everybody kind of got a clear understanding of the Black Book, like how we're using it? We're using that from dealer to dealer. That's our argument at the auction when we don't want to sell a car. This is how we use it. Now, when you go into a private setting, it doesn't matter anymore. No one cares about the Black Book anymore. They don't care. See, Black Book, if they put retail in a car, it doesn't matter because Black Book is branded as a dealer-to-dealer book, even though they venture into some other little stuff and they'll try to tell you what loan value is and all this and that. It no longer matters. Okay, so that's how the Black Book version of the Black Book is used. Now, getting into why is there an NADA and how does the NADA play into your world? Okay, in the car business, we consider the NADA the fantasy book. And the reason, it's not that it's a fantasy book, it's that it's based on banks, not people that buy and sell cars. It's based on banks loaning money and their assessment of what they want to put a risk on a car is. So, they look at some cars do good for them and some cars don't. And that's kind of how NADA is set up. So NADA is set up for a bank's interest, not yours. So a bank says, okay, we think that this is the max amount we can loan on this car and still get a good return on income, return on investment. So they put the retail number out there and then they say, okay, look, we're going to add plus 20%, depending on their credit or whatever the case is. Um, well, hold on. I'll get into that in a second. So if you get into Kelly, if you get into NADA, that's what NADA is based on a retail loan situation. This was designed for car dealers to be able to play ball with the banks, and then credit unions to be able to gauge their stuff to loan money to their consumers. See, everybody wants the car dealers to make money because at the end of the day, it's a big circle of cash flow. I mean, we've got to be able to make money. We keep the banks in business. We pay interest. All our customers. I mean, it's just the whole cycle of cars coming and going. It's this big, huge wheel that's rolling down the road, and everybody has to make money. And the NADA is designed for dealers to make money, but it really limits the exposure to the bank based on a credit situation. So, as a private individual, so far, you should not be interested in Black Book and or NADA because neither one of them are relevant to a good deal as far as I'm concerned. But they are relevant when you're buying a car as a dealer because you got to kind of have an idea of what you're going to backdoor this car at the auction if you get hung in it. And also you need to know where you're going with it because you're looking at where you're at on Black Book, and then you're looking at loan value and NADA and what you can get retail loaned on it. So if you've got a huge retail loan let's say one has a $10,000 NADA loan value, and Black Book on it is $6,000. Well, hell yeah, you want that car. It might be like some weird 4-door car that has a huge book value. Well, then you can make $4,000 on the car at any bank. So that's why you want to pick that car up. If you have a car that costs you $10,000, has an average Black Book of $10,000, and the bank loan value is let's say $8,000, pass on that car because you're going to have a hard time retailing it out to get a loan on it and secure it. So that's how you got to play the game. You got to play the game what you're going to get for it at auction versus what you're going to get a loan for it. So NADA guide tells you what you can finance or people can get money for at their banks, and Black Book tells you what you're going to resell it for if you get hung out to dry, which unfortunately it happens, but if you play your cards pretty smart, you can at least bank on the auto auction or other dealers to bail you out of something if you get hung in it, and the bank should be able to bail you out if you get the correct loan value ratio. So it's all about profit. So you want to look at when you get into loaning money on cars or trying to make money on cars, you're shooting for a $2,000 to $3,000 profit. So that's how this is all set up. Now, it doesn't work out like that. At the end of the day, it ends up around $1,500 to $2,000 on average for the big guys, and for the smaller guys, they get around $1,000, $1,200 a copy. So that's how that works out. All right, now moving on because we're getting ready to get into the retail aspect of this. All right, shit, I'm trying to use the wrong thing here. All right, let me. I've got to touch the camera right here and see what we got here. I don't even know what top chat means. Live channel messages are visible. Yeah, that's perfect. That's what we're doing. Okay. Would it be a good idea to buy? Hold on. Make sure I haven't missed anything. Okay. Okay, a bit on the bright side. Okay, you're talking about the camera. Okay, and what about using Craigslist offer up sites to gauge the value of a car? We'll get to that in just a second. Would it be a good idea to buy in bulk and in areas that have less need for two-wheel drive? Yes, that is a great idea. I think the public uses Carfax as their guide. They don't. Some people may a little bit, but Carfax isn't branded for being the good deal. So a lot of people, what does the average consumer use to gauge the value of a car? That's pretty important to understand. So the average consumer usually calls their bank if they're, and I'm assuming you're an independent guy, so you're not going to have tons of availability. You're not going to have tons of availability as far as banking and finance. So the people you're going to be selling these nice A-tier credit to, they're getting a check from their credit union. So then you got to say, well, what is the credit union giving you for a book value? Well, it's pretty standard that people are either A, going to get their book value from their credit union, which is going to be NADA 9 out of 10 days, period, or they're going to get it from Kelley Blue Book. And out on the West Coast, it's Edmund. So they'll either get it from one of those three sources usually. Carfax does offer you a little bit of a gauge, but it hasn't really caught on yet. So I wouldn't, I mean, I tell people to subscribe to Carfax because it's just another information stream just in case you get that one consumer out of 20 that does it. But most people, you're going to be ready to battle with them on Kelly Blue Book and NADA because that's where they're at. Their banks either told them or they went on Kelly Blue Book and that's where it's at. So that's where they're at. And this is where you got to present your case from. So how do you combat Kelly Blue Book? Okay. Once again, we're going to jump right back in here. Now we got a black book version of events, and now we got an NADA version of events for the bank. And now we're dealing with reality, which is what the Kelly Blue Book is telling the consumer the cars are worth. So, most people are not going to pay the top number in the Kelly Blue Book, and they know that it's not okay to get it for fair. So they're going to be looking for the good. The good version of Kelly Blue Book is a pretty fair number to shoot for. Once you deduct, you got to take the mileage, all that stuff. So look at good, and then whatever's wrong with goods, you got to back up from there to make happen. I.e., you have a car that is quote unquote good, except it does need tires. You got to deduct the tires from your retail number. Whatever you're taking backwards on there is kind of where a consumer is going to be in a fair negotiating position. So you, as the ultimate guy that's going to be putting a price to retail your car at, you could look and put the highest number retail and NADA on it, and it's a pie in the sky. You're never going to get it. You could look at retail for Black Book. You're never going to get it. And you could also put retail from Kelly Blue Book, and once again, you're never going to get it. So the real working numbers on average cars, now if they are a reason that they are highly sought after or extremely desirable, this factor changes. But I'm just saying a normal car. What would be a normal car? Let's take a Chevy Impala, decent miles, average looking. That's a normal car. They're just widely available. You can get them anywhere. So on that, you're looking at basically the good retail of Kelly Blue Book. That's where you want to start your pricing margins from. Now, that isn't what you want to pay for it. That's what you're asking for it. So now you got to say, well, what the hell am I supposed to pay for this car? That's a great question. So with all these book values, how do you actually figure out what the car is actually worth? Well, it's simple. We already know we've got the guide from the Black Book for what the dealers are paying. So keep that in the back of your mind. But really what I look at is what cars retail for, and then I try to go in backwards from there. So let's just say that we have a Kelly Blue Book retail of $10,000. Okay. And that's just good. It's not great. It's not the biggest one, but it's a good one. Let's just say $10,000 is good book value for Kelly Blue Book in the private market. That's fair enough. So how much would I pay for a car that had that? Well, the first thing I'm looking at is, can I make $3,000 on this car? Can $3,000 be made on this car? Because ultimately we're looking for 3-pounders. We want to try for $3,000 if we can. So immediately we're trying to back this car up at $7,000 minus whatever it's going to take to fix it. Now, will you be able to buy this car for $7,000? Who knows? This is where it's going to come down to working the customer and all the things that I tell you guys about as far as, the working the game. You got to work the game to get that price down there in that thing, because people, believe it or not, they will discount the value of their items very quickly. What they won't do is come off actual cash. So even though to us the car is actually cash, but to them, they're not 100% sure the car is worth whatever anyway. So they're going to rely on you to tell them. And since you're there to buy it with cash, they're more than likely going to work with you. Whether they'll come down to $7,000, who knows? Maybe you'll get it for 75 or 8. But like I said, $2,000's better than nothing. So that's how it works, my friends, on deciding that. Now, other cars out there, I really get into gut. I get into the gut feeling on how I feel about the situation with them. Like, sometimes a book value seems too high to me. And when they seem too high to me, I back up, period. Or if I have any red flags, I back up. Like if I have a title, anything screwy on the title, like does it have a previous salvage? We might be looking at a very nice car, but it has a previous salvage history. I immediately cut the number in half, 50%, period. If a car has extremely high mileage, I tend to look at them not as whole cars. Like I only give them a percentage of what the book says, no matter even if it gives an allotment. A 200,000 mile car is at the end of its lifespan as far as retail goes. Now, some cars you can drive out there for 500,000 miles. I don't take that away from it. But on a retail desirability at 200,000 miles, they're pretty much dead in the water. So if you're looking at let's just say you had a '07 something right now. Let's just throw something out there. Let's say you're looking at a 2010 Focus, and it's a little automatic SC, nice little car, nothing wrong with it, but it has 210,000 miles on it. And let's say, well, the book value on a 2010 is $5,500. Do you think that car is worth $5,500 based on the book value? No. I think a 200,000 mile car, I don't care what the year is, I'm going to hit that sucker somewhere around, we're going back at $2,000, period, every time. Because I know it's only a matter of minutes before the transmission falls out or the engine locks up or whatever. It's a throwaway car at $200,000, even though there may be some implied value to a retail consumer out there somewhere. But I've been doing this so long now that I know that 200,000 miles is a kiss of death on a car deal. People will buy them, but they're not going to pay very much for them. So don't get caught up into the year and all of that good stuff. You got to really pay attention to the serviceability of the car. So try to keep yourself down there with reasonable miles. When I say reasonable, back of 160, anything back of 160 makes me feel good. And so that's how I feel about that. And it will work out like that every time. If you trust me on this, if you go out and buy a really high mileage car and you pay anywhere near its book value, you're going to do nothing but regret it. Because people don't want them. That's the problem. Because people are scared with their money and they just don't want them. But if you sell them a dream, like a 150, 160,000, and they think they can get another 100,000, you got a ball game there. So that little bit of mileage makes a big deal. Now, if you do get hung in one that has 200,000 miles, just make sure you just do a few things to it, change the timing belt and stuff like that, make them feel good about it. You might have a shot at getting rid of it if you have some service data with it. But that's just how I feel about that. Now, as far as how all this works together, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to what your gut telling you. Like, you're just going to have to feel it. You know what I mean? You got to feel it. You're going to make some mistakes, and that's okay. You're going to pay too much sometimes. Sometimes you're going to gyp somebody out for another $300 or $400. You probably could have paid a few $100s more. That's okay, because in the big end of the game, you're going to lose more than you're going to win when you first start learning. Period. So, be conservative. Don't get caught up into the book values too much, but just kind of understand how everybody else is. Remember, the car dealers at the auction, they don't care about nothing except how much money they're making on whatever they're making it on. You're not a factor. When the bank looks at their loan, you're not a factor. It's all about what they can make for themselves as far as interest on that consumer. So that's not a factor. And when you get into Kelley Blue Book, the consumer, once again, they're not going to be looking out for your interest. They're only going to be looking out for what is the best possible deal they can get on a car. So you have to be able to understand and communicate between all three of these books. Might as well say four, because if you're on the West Coast, Edmonds. But you got to be able to communicate before the four books. And, like maybe make it five, because Carfax is a viable. They're out there. I mean, they've done one hell of a job branding. So people do go to them. And Auto Trader's got some stuff out there now that gives you kind of a fair value. There's a couple different ones out there that do it, but they're not really that big, and you can combat them with one of the four major books if you want to. Carfax might give you a hassle because people that are on Carfax are loyal customers and they trust them. So I would go ahead and say throw them in there just in case you get that customer. Meanwhile, does anybody not understand how the car game works on the book value? That's what I need to know. Anybody got any questions? I like that one where you were asking about jumping from region to region. I talked to this about Autobuff the other day. It's been a while back. So like in my area, you can buy, our junkyards have really nice cars because people throw away nice cars around here. They do. I mean, we're in a pretty nice area. And so late model cars with high mileages are worthless. I mean, but that's worthless to this area. But if you were took cars from my area and you shipped them into another area that's in, like, say, the Rust Belt, so we're going to come down here and you're going to buy $1,500 cars, but these $1,500 cars have current inspections on them, and which means they're mechanically sound and the paint looks pretty good. There's no rust on them, and you got a car that you can drive for 2 or 3 years, probably for $1,500. Well, that car doesn't exist in the Rust Belt, because any car that's down into the $2,000 plus range, they're just junk parts cars, because the rocker arms or the rocker panels are ate up and the frames are ate up from all the salt and the rust. So if you introduce a rust-free car for $1,500 and sell them, say, in the Rust Belt for $4,500 or whatever, you're going to be a $5,000 cash out lot, and you'll be selling cars like water, because people got $4,000 or $5,000 and they'll gladly spend it for something they can drive for 2 or 3 years. So yeah, that definitely works. And jumping from region to region, like if you were in the flat areas, like Georgia, South Carolina, where the 4-wheel drives, I mean, as a whole, just aren't really that needed, because there's not really snow and all that stuff. But you were able to buy them pretty soft over there. The SUVs with the all-wheel drives and stuff, you can buy them pretty soft because the market's not that hard. If you bought 10 of them there and shipped them into Texas, same thing. Texas just brings stupid money for 4-wheel drives. Problem with Texas is, though, the people that do have cars over there, they're usually rough coming out of Texas. So it's not like you could go over there and buy a load coming back in and switch over here. You would have to just send them trucks and be done with it. But I've been in that game. I've been from Dallas to, the Georgia, Manheim, Pennsylvania, the big auctions down in Florida, Tampa, all them. And the game never really changes. Everybody's kind of wise to it. And everybody that takes the effort to fly from auction to auction and truck these cars from places to places, they already kind of got a grip on how it works. It's nothing new. It's been going around for a long time. And it's a great way to make money. Like, if you got the money to do it, like my dad was talking, he's going to be retiring soon or at some point, and he's a car guy, and he wants to get back into it, and he's where he's talking about going. I know for a fact that the stuff is just junk down there. So I told him, hey, Dad, why don't we just send you like 10 cars a month? I mean, it's my dad, so I'll pick them out. I'll pick him out 10 cars a month, steal them for him, stick them up there, ship them down. And my dad will go play wholesale at the auto auction, and he'll make $1,000 a copy at the dealer's auction, because the dealers know they can't get the nice cars that we get here, and that just plays again. And I'll tell you something else that works out good. California and their rust-free, Arizona, the rust-free old classic cars, man, those things bring just gold when you come out of that area and you bring them into another part of the country that doesn't have them. And then, like in our area, I could get on Craigslist right now, and I guarantee you I can find a lot of the old 60s, 50s, maybe even late model 70s stuff that most areas don't get, because they've already been crushed and brought out of cycle. But we're in one of those strange areas where everything doesn't get ate up by rust. So we have a lot of availability. Like, we can get out there and we can still find $500, $1,000 old big V8 muscle cars that if I send them to Chicago, or I send them up to New York, or wherever I send them to, those cars would just bring ridiculous money. They'd bring 4 times what I'm paying for them with no problem. So yeah, it definitely keep your eyes on the market. And another good tool to have if you're going to become a dealer is Manheim Market Report. It's called the MMR. And that'll let you do the MMR report for a certain region, and then you get a live data feed on what cars are actually bringing for the exact make and model. So that kind of helps too. So, but that's a dealer thing, and once you hook up with Manheim's, you're going to get it. ADESA also has another version of that. That's another big auto group that you can get involved with, and they have a version of the Manheim Market Report, which is their own version, which would give you a pretty good estimate on it. At the end of the day, it's not really that complicated, and I don't want to make it seem complicated. I just wanted you to understand that if you're going to be in the game of retailing cars, you have to be a master of all the books at one time. You have to have a real good understanding of what's going on. You can't just be like, hey, all right, I'm just going to stay with Kelley Blue Book, because the rest of the world doesn't work like that. I mean, your customers dealing with NADA and Kelly Blue Book, and the guy you're buying the car from, he's all awful in Kelly, or he's off on Black Book, and then you may have some other guy. You just don't know what you're dealing with. So whatever you're dealing with, you got to be a master of it. But at the end of the day, you really got to have that gut feeling inside of your stomach that tells you to make the call. Pull the trigger, baby. That's what you got to be able to do. All right. Any questions out there? Any questions? Any questions? And by the way, what do y'all want to get into on Monday? I got some ideas. Like today, this was an idea I've been cooking up for about a week, and I decided to let out there. I got some more ideas for Monday, but I would just want to get a feel for what y'all were feeling like, what you had an appetite for. Are we still talking flipping cars? Is that what we want to stay on? I'm thinking we probably do. That's what everybody seems to be into. So we'll just stay into that. And if anybody's got any ideas, I would love to hear them. And of course, I won't be back on the air till Monday at 5 o'clock. Hopefully, I will have my computer situation under control and I'll be able to actually broadcast normally. Meanwhile, anything else going on? Yeah. Hey, we always talk about this. This always comes up. Did y'all see the video today? I think old Scotty Kilmer is kind of going after old Chris Fix. I'm just throwing that out there. They're back at it again. I thought it was pretty funny. I actually seen when I was logging on. I can't believe these guys. They're just hilarious. But I logged on and Scotty actually posted a video that said, Chris, this is how you actually fix rust. And I'm assuming he's talking about poor Chris Fix. He's really got it out for that guy. I don't know why exactly, but we'll have to keep up to date and see what's going on with him. But apparently, so Scotty went through a whole little scenario and explaining how rust works on cars and the oxidation process, which he was actually quite scientifically correct. Scotty is a good mechanic, and he does understand how stuff works. And I'll have to give Scotty one thing. He was right. Now, jumping out of the car and all that, that's on him, but Scotty was right. Now, I did not see what Chris Fix said in order to get that chastisement from our boy Scotty, but whatever happened, I don't know. I'm thinking they're not in love anymore. Something happened. Somebody update me on the Chris Fix Scotty Kilmer deal. I think they're hilarious. Maybe they're just doing it for the fun of it. I don't know. That might be what's going on. Because if you cause a little controversy, maybe you're getting a little more ratings, or you're causing people to get involved or take sides or something. I just thought it was funny. I've never seen anybody just that pointed on YouTube just be like, do a whole video based on rebuttaling someone else, which I thought was hilarious. All right, guys, so I guess that's it. That's it for today, and we will send you nothing but love from the RVA. Remember to shop our Amazon stores on any of our videos out there, or you can hit on our main page. You'll see our Amazon hookup. You can buy anything you want. It doesn't matter. Of course, some of my favorite stuff is on there, and I'm really trying to get that little thing rolling. It's actually doing okay. I mean, it's doing like we're doing like $1 or $2 a day on Amazon, which is, you know what? That's a big deal. Before y'all laugh, that's actually a big deal because I started out with nothing. So we're starting to get traffic on there daily, and I'm trying to get it kind of like one of those staples. Like I'm adding it to the YouTube flow. So it's just kind of a fun little project I'm kind of enjoying. So if you get a chance to check it out, and we'd appreciate it. Meanwhile, peace out. Nothing but love. And I'm not sure how this thing cuts off from here. So has anyone ever done this from their phone? Hey, guess what, guys? I can actually switch the screen on this, so I can take y'all different places while I'm doing this. I just realized that. That's pretty cool. All right, let's see what this does right here. Let's see. I'm going to push this button. Share, mute, microphone. Okay, that's probably not it. And let's see. I can probably hit the X. That might work. Okay, guys, if you disappear, I will see you on Monday. Are you sure you want to stop streaming? Not really. I love these guys, but I got to go. All right.